All right, so I'm going to demonstrate how to create a beat in Ableton using this alternative view instead of using the horizontal view, which is very familiar if you've ever used GarageBand or Logic. We're going to be using the clip view, which is actually what makes Ableton a very popular software for creating arrangements and writing music, and that's what we're going to show. Okay, let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust my tempo up here because I don't want this to be at the default. I'll bring it to 110, just slightly slower. And I'm going to start by creating some sort of beat. So I just selected the other tracks that were in there by default and deleted them. I'm going to rename this to drums just to know exactly what I'm doing. And I'm going to pick a drum kit. This is the last one I was using, so I'm going to choose it. If I want to hear the different sound banks in here, I can click around and nothing happens. But if I press the little headphone, now I can hear all of the different options without having to double click them, load them, and go through all the process. Delete it if you don't like it. Instead, you just click on that and you could sample them. So I know I want to use this, so I'm going to click it. I'm going to drag it right in here. And now I have this kit. I'm going to press my little keyboard icon all the way up here on the top. And if I press my keyboard, A, S, D, and F correspond to the different pads of this virtual drum set or virtual drum sampler. So if you load up this instrument and you do everything I did and you can't hear anything, and when you press a button you see this light up but nothing's coming out, there's no volume, there's no audio, you see that like your buttons are being received, but there's no audio, you might be on the wrong octave. So just look down here, click on Z or X to raise your octave. And I had mine at C0. If I bring it to C1, then I'm back to the default and I can actually hear what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and put the metronome on and I'm going to press play. The first thing I'm going to do is just a very simple 4 on the floor kind of sound. So let's go ahead and press record here. Okay, that's it. I just pressed 4 little tabs after I pressed the little record button, this little circular thing right here. And now I've created this little clip. If I double click on that, I can see the 4 taps that I did. I can see that it lasted 1 measure because it started at measure 1, beat 1, measure 2, beat 1. So everything's by default mapped out. If I select all of those and I want to quantize them, which I do, I am going to right click on the little clips after the little MIDI notes after putting them in, highlighting them, and I can press quantize. And now everything just got aligned to the beat. The beat being measure 1, beat 1, measure 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, etc. See how the grid is really, really dense right now. And if I were to use a pencil tool to input some notation, there's a lot of different steps I can notate or sequence, and it's because down here my grid is set to 1/64th, which is a lot. That means there's 64 notes possible per measure. I'm going to lower it to 1/8 notes, and now we only have 8 per measure. So it's a lot simpler of a looking interface. Let's get started. So I can now launch this clip by clicking on the little play button, the little flag to the left of the clip. I turn my metronome off, and now I just have my simple kick drum sound. I want to build off of that. Just like if it was a techno song, there's always a little bit of a build up. So what I did was I clicked on the clip and I pressed Option, I clicked it, I dragged it, I let go with my mouse, and now I can let go of Option. It is there, it is duplicated. These are the same. So what I'm going to do is make some sort of additional part or additional MIDI notes to this second clip so that if I launch that, there's some sort of a variation. And now I'm already creating another section of my song. So I'm going to use the tambourine, which I can't hear, but if I press the little headphone icon, now I can hear what's over here on this little piano roll. So I'm going to use the tambourine, and I'm going to have it come in every other beat. Let's see if that works. And I'm going to press play to launch that. Love it. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate that. And thinking about the different components of a drum set, I said kick, snare, and hi-hat are really kind of the foundational elements of a beat. So this is kind of acting like a hi-hat, even though I didn't use a hi-hat sound. So now what I want to do is create a snare drum. So let's go ahead and put some sort of snare or clap or something that's going to really act as that element. So let's see what we got here. So we want some sort of a snare to come right here, and then another one to go right there. Let's see what happens. Let's launch the clip. Nice. Now I'm going to launch a fourth one, and this one's going to have a drum fill at the end of the sequence. So let's see some sort of, what do we got here? We got cymbal. That sounds cool. I want this to be 16th so that I have a little bit more wiggle room here. I have a little bit more that I can sequence. And I'm going to put that, where is it? Okay, so it is right there. Let's see what happens. It might sound pretty bad, but I'm gonna do this. Yep. Love it. Okay. So now I have my 4 clips. Why did I do this? I want to show you that there's actually a really great way to start creating an arrangement without having to manually input all of these MIDI notes with Ableton. And the way is, once you have your little parts in this clip view sequenced, which we did, the sequencing element was taking the pencil tool, writing things in, and altering the clip. I can trigger them and record what I'm doing so that it is made available in the timeline. What are you talking about, Professor? I will show you. Okay, here we go. I'm going to press pause or stop here so nothing is triggered when I start from the top. I'm going to press record right here. And I'm going to start launching some clips. Cool. Sounding good. In a minute, I'm going to launch my second clip. Let's do it now. Cool. Give it another moment and I'll launch my third clip. Love it. In a moment, I will launch my fourth clip. And I went back to my third clip because it's a drum fill, so I don't necessarily want it to play over and over again. And I'm alternating between these 2 clips. Now I'm going to go back down to my more simple. And then I'm going to bring it back down to the very simple one. And I stopped it. So if I go into my other view, I can see that everything I did was actually sequenced here with MIDI notes. And if I want to make any changes, all I got to do is go to my clip and adjust my notes. It's grayed out because it's actually not going to play anything back until I click on this orange box, and now the familiar view that we're used to after our first assignment is back. And if I want to make some changes to this, let me get rid of the pencil tool. Okay. If I want to make some changes to this, I can just click around, and maybe I want to duplicate the length of this intro where I had my tambourine. Maybe I want to double that. So I can select with the cursor this vertical line that's kind of pulsing. If I press Command E, I can slice that little file. I can press it again here. So now I have this segment separated. I'm just going to move it here by pressing Option, click and drag. And now I have extended it, and I have an extra long section. So in other words, once you start messing with the arrangement using this, you can actually just input changes here and do all the editing as you are used to from the first assignment. Stay tuned for the second half of this where I show you some melodic ways to use this.